Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for a collective conversation. And today we're going to be talking about community college nursing programs and kind of addressing some of the workforce needs that nursing presents over the last few years. My name is Jennifer Foster. I'm the Deputy Executive Director at the Illinois Community College Board, and I have some colleagues that will join us and provide their perspectives on nursing. So what I will do at this point is I'm going to ask them a few questions. And just first of all, I'm going to start by giving you a background, a little bit of a background on this particular subject. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, employment projections for 2019 and 20 through 2029, registered nursing is among the top occupations in terms of growth through 2029. The registered nurse workforce is expected to grow about 7% during this time frame. And the Bureau also projects about a little more than 175,000 job openings for RNs each year through 2029. There will be lots of nurse retirements, and the workforce exits are factored into the number of nurses needed in the United States. In 2020, uh, the Illinois Community College ADN program enrolled nearly 10,000 students in those programs and graduated about 2,500 students. Each year, these programs have the same or higher annual NCLEX pass rates as their national counterparts. The community college system continues to strengthen the nursing pipeline despite many challenges, many of which have been exacerbated by COVID-19 pandemic, and all of us have been subject to that, to the pandemic. Today, we are joined by three experts in nursing education who will be leading the way to prepare nurses for the workforce of the future. With us, we have Amy Murphy, Director of Allied Health and Nursing at Southeastern Illinois College. We have Cynthia Maskey, Dean of Health Professions at Lincoln Land Community College. And we have Jorie Kulczak, Interim Dean of Nursing, Health, and Public Services at Joliet Junior College. And I would like to welcome you to this conversation as we begin our discussion about addressing some of the workforce needs in nursing, in the nursing profession. So as we move forward, we're going to have a conversation, and I want it to be just kind of an open, sort of open dialogue in terms of our conversation. And I'll start out with asking each of you a question. According to a recent survey from the Illinois Nursing Workforce Center, about 52% of registered nurses are near the age of retirement, which all of us hope and dream to at some point someday, with a third preparing to retire in the next few years. What steps are your colleges taking to meet current and future nursing workforce needs? So we'll start with Amy.
Well, we live in the extreme southern portion of the state, and we live in a very rural area. So we invite our community healthcare agencies in for recruitment. We involve them heavily in our programs and decision making of our programs so that our students can feel a connection and want to stay here to work in our area and in our state. We also try to recruit a lot of displaced workers. We've lost a lot of industry in our area. We've lost a lot of population in our area. So we do try to open up to people who may be looking for the second career or trying to replace a lost occupation. We offer both full and part-time options for our LPN students because we do have so many single parents and working parents, or just younger students that have responsibilities of caring for older adults and their families. So those are some of the ways that we are addressing of the nursing shortage.
Thank you, Amy. Jorie?
Thank you. JJC is very busy. We're located not too far outside of Chicago, about 45 minutes outside of Chicago. So we're in a very populated area, and we haven't seen a struggle in terms of enrollment at JJC, but we do really, we feed it into our community and into the community hospitals with all of our graduates. We have a very large nursing program, and we intend to keep our nursing program at the numbers that it's at. We currently accept 88 students into our program, and we offer both a day and an evening program that allows for the flexibility for people who are either returning students or people that we know need to work while being in college, so that we can recruit from various aspects of the community. So that's definitely a perk that we utilize for our community. We do also have an LPN transition program that we're trying to build even bigger and stronger to encourage the articulation and the increase in education, which will, the LPN program obviously in and of itself helps with supporting the nursing shortage, but then allowing for transition from LPN to RN will aid in that in more of the acute care setting within our area. We focus a lot on recruitment. We go into our high schools to recruit there, but we also put on it every summer what we call a nursing exploration fair for our students in our area. We invite all of the junior and senior high school students from the colleges, our feeder high schools, and give them a day in the life of a nursing student and a day in the life of a nurse. And it gives them a feel for what it would be like to be a nursing student. We have them sit in class, we have them do hands-on skills and teach them some very basic skills. And so they have an understanding of what it's like to be a nursing student. And that really encourages students who are questioning what they're wanting to do with their life. It really encourages them to look at the healthcare industry and look at nursing in general. But I think we're very flexible, and we focus a lot on adult learners. We have a daycare within Joliet Junior College to allow for parents to be able to attend classes while utilizing our daycare. So we are very focused on making sure we feed into the needs of our community.
That's great. So it's showing that you do some marketing there, as well as the wraparound support services that students often need during this time frame.
Yes, because it's not just about marketing, but it's also about the retention, because we can't put the students out if we can't retain them. And the graduates obviously the industry needs the graduates, and they need the success of the graduates. So we do what we can to retain them. And it helps when we're focusing on their outside needs, not just their educational needs as well.
Great, great. Cynthia, what's happening at...
Well, I'm in Central Illinois, so it seems you've picked from all throughout the state. And at this point, we are happy in that we have more enrollment than we can take in the program, but it's also not keeping up with as many students as we could and graduates as we could put out if we had more. We have recently gotten into a big partnership with one of our hospitals here in Springfield with Memorial Health Systems, in that they are helping support a renovation in one of our buildings on the campus, because the problem with increasing our enrollment was that we were so space bound. And so we're very deep in our community. We have a large geographic district also, but the big hospitals are both in Springfield, and we work with them on paying attention to the needs that they have, and the needs are continuing. They're not lightening up, as you said, it's just going to continue. And so we work with them to see how we can best meet those needs. And we've done some of the things that I did hear Jorie mentioned. We have also the LPN to RN transition course, and we had done a single admission per year. And now we do admit in the fall and in the spring to try to increase the number of RNs that we graduate. We're gradually increasing our numbers. And then as we finish that renovation and be able to have more space and also the faculty that will go with that, then we will be able to increase the enrollment in the other programs. We also did go back and add an evening group into the mix. We'd had one before, and we are trying that again because students change all the time and their lives are complicated, and we want to be able, as already mentioned, to be able to make them comfortable with the school and the schedule and be able to have a life, but also be successful in school, because it is quite a rigorous process, whether it's full-time, part-time, daytime, evening, however you're going into it. And so we do try to think of all those different ways to meet that need as we move forward, because that need is there. We hear it from our community partners constantly with our advisory groups that we invite in and others. The need isn't getting any less.
And I think that is so important, that you're not only listening to what is happening within the community, but you're also listening to what you said you engage with the hospitals, the 2 hospitals that are there in the city. So making certain that we garner everybody's perspective is so important. Thank you so much. The next question we have is the COVID-19 has impacted all of us, and it has limited the in-person contact that we have with our students, and access to clinicals have also been an issue. How is your college adjusting your nursing programs to respond to these new challenges and continue to educate and prepare nurses? Why don't we start with Jorie?
I'm happy to address that. JJC has put a lot of its own resources into acquiring software to allow for our students to have virtual simulation. Our faculty have been extremely creative in different ways of educating the students from the virtual perspective. We're in such a populated area that we are still not in clinical at this point. Our students are still virtual when it comes to clinical. We're just slowly getting released from the hospitals to be able to come back because we're so close to the Chicago metropolitan area. So we've needed to be really creative. So a lot of the clinical has changed to simulation, and we do allow our students to come in certain size groups to our simulation center. We have a very big 4-bed simulation center that is set up just like a hospital. So they are getting some clinical simulation from that perspective. We're doing things that we can to increase the critical thinking, even though they're not at the bedside. So our most recent transition was into wearable simulation. So we're acquiring wearable simulation where the student can be the patient. For instance, we are able to allow the students to put on what would be a tracheotomy or tracheostomy, and their partner can actually perform trach care, and the wearable simulation can trigger the patient to respond. Say the student went too deep into the throat, the wearable simulator would trigger the person wearing the simulator to cough, to give a more realistic experience to the student, but also allows for improving empathy for the patient who is, or the student who is the patient, because then they have a little better sense of what it's like to be a patient. So we've also put a lot of money into our virtual reality lab. We have a room dedicated to virtual reality, and we have a computer specialist who's transitioning our virtual reality into actually being virtual reality, where we can log in through the Teams platform or the Zoom platform and actually have virtual reality in that platform. So we did recognize right from the start back in March that clinical was going to suffer, and we started then planning, and we're very busy all through the summer, identifying different programs, different software programs, different ways to even get equipment to the students so that they could practice their hands-on skills, have practice time virtually with our lab coordinators so that they can practice their lab skills. We've done a lot with everything transitioning to virtual. We miss the bedside, and everybody is definitely saying that, and I'm sure my colleagues will agree with that too. But I think we're making the best of a really bad situation, and luckily at this point we did not see a decrease in our NCLEX pass rates as of yet, so I'm hoping that that stays on track. And I have every, the utmost faith in my faculty that we will continue to see our amazing pass rates in our program.
Great. That's wonderful. And the joys of technology. I don't know where we would have been at this point, at this juncture, if we didn't have access to technology. It definitely has been amazing. Cynthia,
Yeah,
what about you, and what is happening at Lincoln? How are you addressing some of the pandemic or COVID-19, some of those restrictions?
Well, I can agree with Jorie. I'm very thankful to the college, especially when everything happened in March and we just had to go completely virtual. They were very helpful in us getting the equipment. I'm very proud of the nursing faculty for just jumping right in there with both feet and learning how to use it and giving the students a good experience, because we've had that also. At a point during the summer, we were lucky in that our clinical sites did allow us to start coming back, but we paid particular attention to make sure that we continued to use the virtual simulation experiences in addition, because you never know what the next day is going to bring. And so we wanted to continue with both, but we have thankfully been able to go to the clinical sites face to face with support again from the college with PPE and other things, because we needed to show up ready, obviously with how to use it, which we taught, but actually having it in our hot little hands, having our PPE with us when we came to the clinical units to be able to do that. And then there's been some changes in the units that we have used over time, and then they may be being used for COVID patients, and we probably would not go to that unit. So we've had some changes that way. So we've had to change lab. Lab is done. We've done some face-to-face, but a lot more virtual in the lab. If we do have a lab, it's a very small group. And then we've all become very good at cleaning everything. Whenever you walk into a room before you leave, you have to clean it all down. So it's gotten very interesting. But I think as nurses and healthcare workers, we just know how to adapt. And we're just happy to have the situations that we have been able to have, whether it's virtually or face-to-face, and we follow the rules and the guidelines put forth. And I think I'm just like Jorie, I want to knock on wood. Pass rates look good. Students seem to be doing well. So we want to continue to offer the best learning experiences that we can within this very interesting environment that we're in right now.
And it looks like, you have put some things in place and have some relationships that have been established that it will help all of us through this next phase. It doesn't look as if it's leaving right now, but maybe eventually we'll get back to normal, or this may be our new normal. So Amy, what about you?
There's some of both. I think there's
That's
some
true.
new normal and some things that are going to change forever.
Right. Amy, what about you?
Well, my answers will be similar to those of my colleagues. Our campus started right away preparing for the long haul. I think that we weren't fooled into thinking that these pandemic and social distancing measures were only going to last for a few weeks. We have been very fortunate that this fall, our clinical facilities have allowed us back in. And so far that has not been interrupted, but we do understand that that could turn on a dime, as it did back in March. It turned very quickly. And at that time, our faculty who had little to no teaching experience with remote learning had to take some crash courses. The campus purchased software so that we could proctor tests remotely. We invested in extra programs such as Shadow Health and ATI that we hadn't used before to try to get some kind of virtual clinical experience for our students. Our enrollment did not suffer like we thought it might yet. And as my colleagues stated, so far our board pass rates have not suffered either. And we were surprised because of the differences in the learning techniques that the students had to engage and skills that they had to develop. As I mentioned earlier, we do live in a very rural area. Internet is still a challenge here. So our campus worked very quickly to get hotspots together so that students could travel short distances and still have access to internet, even if it was just by their phones, and we stayed connected with them that way.
Great, that's wonderful. Definitely broadband has been a topic of discussion throughout our state. And thank you, Amy, for bringing that perspective into it, that it is and it continues to be an issue. My next question is, what role can community colleges play in ensuring a diverse nursing workforce? Um, and we talked a little bit about those supports and wraparound services. Jorie, you talked about childcare, but what can community colleges do to support low income and minority students access and completion of nursing programs? Let's start with, Cynthia, let's start with you.
Okay. Well, I think in nursing programs, community colleges are uniquely um, positioned to support students with diverse backgrounds. And that's diverse backgrounds of males in nursing, diverse backgrounds of age, of people coming back with second careers that Amy mentioned. We've worked a lot of times with that. So any type of diversity within it. And then the community colleges are also very good at supporting students financially as they need to be with basic financial aid, but also other programs, through foundations and other ways, and assisting within the healthcare programs and the nursing programs to look for scholarships and other ways to help students find the means to be successful and funded in a program. So I think, and when you look at any nursing school population, if you want to look at diversity, it's always going to be the most diverse within a community college. So I think if diversity is the question and what we're looking at, community colleges are the places where we can best do that and we can best support the students in being successful. We have the financial supports that I mentioned. We also have the academic supports. We also have some childcare supports, lots of different programs to be able to support different things that come up that you wouldn't have thought of. Transportation many times is a big problem, lots of other things. And the community colleges do such a good job of paying attention to who their students are and what their needs might be, and how we can best help them be successful. The nursing programs, we all tend to have more applicants than we have seats. So we want to pay attention to make sure that if you have a seat in a program, we want you to be successful. The community wants you to be successful. So we want to put those supports in place early and often, if that's the way to say it, but we want you to be supported in every way so that you're going to be successful. Because when you're successful, then the whole community is, because students who graduate from community colleges tend to stay right in that community. They don't tend to, pack up and go back somewhere else. They live right there and they tend to stay there and work there in the hospitals and nursing homes or whatever it might be right within that community.
Amy, did you want to add anything to what Cynthia said? I know community, that's our name, community college. And so therefore lots of different connections that are happening there in order to support students. Amy, did you want to add anything?
Our community college embraces inclusivity and cultural diversity. And at the most recent Board of Trustees meeting, tuition and fees were frozen for the next year. So we focus a lot on affordability to be more attractive, to the low income families that live in our area. We have a lot of support from the foundation that provide individual scholarships and assistances to the students. The WIOA program is really big in our area, and it is a tremendous help with everything from childcare to transportation, and a great number of our students take advantage of that. Also, we try to promote our dual credit and early college programs because that allows students to obtain some of those prerequisite college courses while they're still in high school at a tremendous savings, most times cost-free, to families that would otherwise be struggling to find tuition dollars. We also have tutoring services for those prerequisite courses that have managed to remain in place during these times of remote learning. And our media services department has worked with them, and our campus has been supportive of them. And they have had really good success with students reaching out so that they can continue to assist them with those goals.
A lot of things have been said. Do you have anything to add to that? What are you doing to support that diversity? And
We have a very diverse community that we serve. So we do recruit some diversity within our program. Of course, just like my other colleagues, diversity is of utmost importance at JJC. It's one of our core values. So we really focus on that and we have a director of diversity, equity, and inclusion that we work with closely to recruit students, recruit faculty that are diverse. We really want our faculty and our staff and our administration to mirror our population that we serve. So we really look at best practices on ways to recruit faculty and ways to recruit students who are diverse. But one of the things I think that stands out at JJC right now is not only looking at the minority population from the cultural background, but in terms of nursing, we're also looking at ways to close our gap on gender. We are really working on trying to recruit male students into our program. So we have recently partnered with the American Academy of Men in Nursing to start a chapter of that association at JJC. And we're coming up with ways. We do have 2 male full-time faculty members who are heading that up at JJC to try and really recruit more males into the profession. And it's really kind of exciting to see that and to increase. And just like everybody, our numbers wax and wane when it comes to males, that we can have a semester where 25% of our students are males, and then we can drop down the next semester to 10% because we've graduated some and not brought as many in. So, but we're just trying to look at different ways to maintain the numbers of males into the profession. And I know we're working against a historically female profession, but that was one gap that we have definitely identified over the last couple of years that we've been focusing on. And so that might be one of the differences or one addition to all of the other comments that's already been said in terms of the nursing workforce and the nursing education.
I appreciate you bringing that up, that, looking at those gaps and where those gaps exist, and then trying to come up with a solution to address those. So thank you very much. So ladies, last question that I have for you is that if you were to offer one strategy because all of you have we've talked about a variety of different things. We've talked about wraparound services, broadband, how your students are doing very well in the passage of their NCLEX examinations. And so that's a good thing. But if you could offer one strategy to overcome the nursing shortage, what would that strategy be? Anyone can start. How about Amy? Want to start?
That is a really hard one. I feel like that industry-wide that the nurses need to be heard. And I know that there have been great strides in creating voice for nursing and in professional development and in belonging to professional organizations. They also need to have some commitments to shared governance that include nursing, I know, just to broaden their input so that their concerns are heard. Especially right now, when we hear from our graduates that are boots on the ground in the field right now, we are hearing horror stories from students who walked out of these doors, you know, what seems like just a week ago, and it wasn't long ago. And they just need a tremendous amount of support. They are burning out quickly. So I think they need a plan, and they need to have a lot of input into what their futures hold. So professional development and training would go a long way to retain those nurses.
Jorie?
I can piggyback off of what Amy said, because I definitely agree that nurses need to have a voice. And I think one of the ways that nurses can be heard is to encourage additional education. By doing that, we can also encourage more faculty to come into nursing education. If we can increase the number of faculty in nursing education, we can potentially increase the number of students. Because sometimes we want to bring more students in, but we might not have the faculty, or we might not have the clinical space. And that's another whole comment in and of itself. But I think encouraging education, and you know, many of our colleagues in healthcare have a required higher education degree, whether it's a master's degree or a doctoral degree. And if nurses want to be at that table with them and want to have a voice, we need to encourage that education, with notwithstanding the idea that community college education is so important, you know, and it's the perfect springboard for anybody to utilize to get into the profession. But I think if we can start from the beginning and educate our students on really what a great profession it is, but then also on ways to get that professional development that Amy talked about, and ways to stay within the industry, and to curb that burnout a little bit by, you know, adding to their education. I think that will help to encourage the numbers within nursing and help relay the nursing shortage.
Thank you. Cynthia?
Well, along with that, I think we need to have, I agree with my colleagues, but I think we need to have more information out there on the reality of nursing. I think we still, the public doesn't always understand what a nurse is, what a nurse does, and you can't even put it in one small capsule because there are just so many possibilities within having your nursing background and then adding education to it. As Jorie said, it can take you anywhere. And so learning to, you know, improving the image and the understanding of what being a nurse is, you know, the ethics, the background, what we do, what we stand for, and then getting nurses at more of the tables and getting the voice heard of, here's the input. Listen to the nurses. We actually know what's going on and how things can be improved. And I think if our students can see that, it would help them also. I think it's very important to not get a tunnel vision about what a nurse is and what a nurse does, because it is just such a broad profession. So I think that's important that we do that. And I think early on do that, because we do need young faculty, as Jorie was saying, to be those role models, to get students very interested in continuing their education, getting out and doing other things. My faculty are fantastic, but along with me, I'm right there with them. We are in that group that you talked about at the beginning, who are getting at retirement age. And there is that worry about what's going to happen if we do not get more nursing faculty in there, who are passionate about nursing education. So but that's one role. There are nurse scientists, there are, nurse practitioners, just everything. So it's just this basic beginning that we're giving them, and then the world is open to nurses. So I wish we could get that out on a more regular basis, and work on some of the images that sometimes are seen that I wish could be improved.
And that passion is so important in the work that you all do. And thank you so much for the answers to your questions. And so we're going to wrap things up. And I thank you all for being with us today. As COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted, workforce demand for nurses and healthcare professionals at all levels is very critical. The Illinois Community College systems continues to play a vital role in meeting the staffing needs for hospitals and healthcare providers throughout our state. Understanding the immense workforce shortage, the ICCB recently worked with NIU, the Northern Illinois University Education System Center, high schools, community college, and employer partners to develop a health sciences program of study. And this is inclusive of priority credentials such as CNA, LPN, and RN. Model programs of study are designed to facilitate the seamless transition for students interested in the healthcare field from high school into the college's nursing program. Engaging and recruiting from all talent pools within our community, particularly our youth, is essential for addressing the workforce shortages. So we are so happy and so pleased that you three are with us today to have this conversation, and it needs to be a continued conversation about what is happening, the workforce needs as it relates to nursing. So thank you so much for spending time with us today to talk about what those needs are in terms of nursing. Thank you again.
Thank you.